Still waiting on Shohei Ohtani to decide what team he's going to play for. And I mean, look, this is the biggest free agent sweepstakes I can remember. I mean, it may be the biggest one in the history of baseball. I mean, you're talking about a guy comparable to the Bambino himself, Babe Ruth. And it looks like it's going to be the Dodgers. He just played for the Angels. You go across town. They have the finances. They've got the great weather. But it could be the Cubs. They're deep in this process. As far as the Cubs are concerned, don't expect anything until Shohei Ohtani decides. We're going to talk about that here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Thank you guys for hanging out. If you're not part of our channel yet, you're the biggest free agent that we've ever tried to get, and we want you to be here. So like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Let's get this thing going. What do you say, guys? Mick Gillispie, and great to be here with you talking Cubs baseball. And, you know, it's that time of year where we're getting into baseball's winter meetings. We're planning on being there for that next week, and we'll bring you content from Nashville. Now, the question that a lot of us have, including me, is when are the Cubs going to start making some moves? And the answer really is all about Shohei Ohtani. The Cubs are deep in this process. There's, I think, 3 or 4 teams that are vying to get Ohtani. Vegas still feels like the Dodgers are the team to beat. And honestly, I think they probably are. I mean, they started to subtract a lot of salary over the last couple of years. And most of us feel like that was to make room for a Shohei Ohtani contract. You know, and the other thing is that the Dodgers have, I think, if it's not number one, it's one of the most lucrative television packages in all of baseball and sports, for that matter. I mean, it's really phenomenal how much money they make. And they made that deal back when you could do that. You know, the Cubs are trying to build their TV network, but they got in the game too late because they had contracts with other entities and couldn't put them all together to do a channel until you kind of got past that. And now most people are cutting cords and it's a different game. With that said, there is a lot of reasons why Shohei Ohtani would be a super asset for the Cubs. And I think it starts with those TV networks. If you're the Dodgers, you got to give people a reason to watch. If you're the Cubs, you're still trying to get on certain channels, and you're trying to get on different networks that, provide TV, like Comcast and Spectrum and all of these. I'm not sure which ones they're on and they're not on, but I can tell you that it's like half of the city of Chicago doesn't even have the Cubs. And then, outside of the area, I mean, it's not like it was when we were growing up. The reason why we all got into the Cubs is because they were on every TV. They were on WGN, maybe not full time, but a lot of the time. You would watch Harry and Steve and the Cubs, and it was just kind of part of your lifestyle. Think if they would have had a draw like Ohtani, so that's one of those things for the Cubs. Maybe it gets a little bit easier to make deals when more people are saying, hey, I want to watch this guy and what he brings to the table. So he could be an asset for the TV network. Now, he's also going to be an asset to whatever team signs him in marketing. He's going to bring over this huge fan base in Japan. Their baseball kind of circles around him, that he's the most popular player, and he's probably that in our country too, right? I mean, he's definitely the best player, and popularity, I mean, you see him on commercials and stuff. He's one of the only baseball players that is on national advertising campaigns. I mean, you see the guys in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, they're all over the place. The NBA, I mean, you can't turn a TV on without seeing LeBron James or, some of those other guys running around on TV. But baseball really doesn't have that face, except Ohtani is becoming that. So those are two reasons. Now, on the field, he's an excellent hitter. He's the best DH in baseball. He's a left-handed bat. You need that. And he's got a ton of power. And then in 2 years, he'll be able to pitch. He's not going to be able to pitch this year, but that also makes him really unique. And I mean, I think we've all kind of gone over this. Some teams are bowing out. It doesn't look like the Mariners are going to be in this mix, but the Dodgers and the Giants and the Cubs and, who knows who else. Geography seems to be an area that is of concern for some teams because it's a lot closer to get home to Japan from the West Coast than it is from the East Coast. Does it, to me, I mean, I don't know how much that really matters to you, but I think it's not just the fact that it's closer. There's also a lot more flights that leave out of, that area to get there, so you got more options. I used to live in Hawaii, and I remember, San Francisco and LA and in those airports constantly with a lot of choices to fly, back and forth from Hawaii. And that's the same direction that you're going, in a roundabout way to get to Japan. So, that was something that obviously led him to sign with the Angels. Well, the other thing is that the Cubs had a meeting with him in the very beginning when he was coming over. And at that point, the National League still had the National League game. The pitcher still batted. And so he couldn't be a DH. And so he was going to play for an American League team so he could do both. Now the National League obviously has the DH. So that's not going to be an issue. And you look at the geography. I think that it benefits the city of Chicago, Illinois. Their taxes aren't as high as out in California. I mean, does it really matter? You're going to get one of the biggest contracts in baseball history. Well, I mean, it's your money. I mean, if do you want to have half of your money or do you want to have 60% of your money? Their taxes are so high out there that you have to get more money just to make up for the taxes. So that's an advantage that I think that that the Cubs would have. Maybe a disadvantage is Chicago weather. It definitely is a place that isn't California and Southern Cal where it never rains and it's always seems to be pretty good weather. I think San Diego has the best weather in the entire country, but LA is not too far from it. But at the same time, do you want to play somewhere that has that mystique? And look at the Vines. I mean, I got them on here, like playing out there every day, wearing that Cubs uniform, being a teammate with Seiya Suzuki. So I think there's some advantages there as well. Plus the passion that Cubs fans have. That's what we're known for, like supporting the team, showing up, and the day games. I think the day games help you with a Shohei Ohtani. I think players like to be able to have nights off and have that mix. And if a team embraces it like they did in 2016, then good things can happen. It's definitely a different type of schedule than you'd have anywhere else in baseball because the Cubs play so many more day games than everyone else. But I think that helps you there. I mean, you hear other players talk about it. And remember when Yu Darvish was there, it was something that he really liked. Hey, you can go have dinner with your family some. So that's going to be interesting as well. I don't see Ohtani signing with anyone other than the Dodgers or the Cubs. And maybe I'm way off on this, but I think that this has been the Dodgers' game to lose from the beginning. But the fact that the Cubs have pushed so hard, I think that if you love the game of baseball, there's no second to Wrigley. Some people might say Fenway. There's no second to Wrigley. The city and everything else that goes with it. So We'll find out. Now, with all of that said, once he decides where he's going, all of a sudden, I think you're going to see a lot more being done. And this year's winter meetings could be really interesting for the Cubs because they have a surplus of talent and there is an obvious opening at first base. To me, I think you got to address that first base. Either you got to go all in on Mervis or you're going to have to do something about it. You know, having Christopher Morel learn how to play first base, to me, it isn't really an option. Or you sign Bellinger, which all of a sudden you're starting to hear now that the Giants are the team that is kind of emerging as the place for Bellinger. Like they're going to go and they're going all in on him. You know, we'll see what happens. You know, dealing with Scott Boras is dealing with Scott Boras. I mean, you know. So once Ohtani goes, then I think other things are going to happen as well. And you heard from this, you know, the South Side, they're going to make some moves. I heard Bruce Levine say that they're going to trade Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez. If you're going to trade those two guys, who else might you trade? And if I'm the Cubs, I'm paying attention to that because one of the things that the Cubs really need is starting pitching. They could use starting pitching depth. Theo Epstein used to say that you need 8 starters. And I think that is the best advice and the best logic that I ever heard because guys get hurt constantly pitching. And today, and the way that the starters are used and the bullpens are used, you would love to have those 8 guys, maybe a couple of them are like, you know, those mid-range guys that kind of help bridge the days that your starters don't go very far. But pitching, I think, has got to be at the top of the list. What do you guys think? What do you think? Do you think that Shohei Ohtani is going to the Dodgers? Do you think the Cubs will pull off a miracle here and he'll come to Chicago? And if he doesn't go to Chicago, it's not the end of the world. What's next? Where do you go next? You know, some of you guys have put in some amazing comments and have said it. You know what? It doesn't matter how many hitters you have. You got to have the pitching to get there. And if you look at last year's Cubs team, when they were playing their best baseball, they were getting great starts. The bullpen was solid. They got enough runs. And then when the pitching started to falter, that's when everything else started to fall apart. So anyway, that's today's video. Again, expect us to be in Nashville next week for the baseball winter meetings. We're going to be covering this thing. If something breaks, we'll be here. If not, we will talk to you guys tomorrow right here on the Cubs baseball channel. And with the holiday season here, right, we're already past Thanksgiving, so now we're getting into that Christmas area. I want to invite you guys to the Tennessee Smokies team store. They got some great swag, and they got it at those low Tennessee prices. SmokiesBaseball.com/store. Go over there and check it out. They got a lot of cool stuff for the Cubs fan that may have everything, but he doesn't have everything. Unless he or she's already rated the Smokies team store. But they won their first championship in 45 years, and they want you guys to go check out the store. Thank you for hanging out with us, and go Cubs.